Hey guys, thanks for joining our Amazon Ask Me Anything. So we're joined here with Brice from Reap Commerce and Emily from Pro Resourcing. So we're going to start off by letting Brice introduce himself and what he does at Reap Commerce.
Well, I appreciate it, Eric. Brice McBeth. I'm with Reap Commerce. We help advertise e-commerce businesses. We help optimize their online conversions for their website, and we also do a lot of marketplace management, especially Amazon and some Walmart and Target business. We're one of the few agencies that have hired ourselves and eaten our own dog food to grow a business from scratch and turned it into a multi-million-dollar business and ultimately sold it back to our largest manufacturer. So I think the takeaway there is we have sat in the customer shoes. We have eaten our own dog food, and what we do, we know it works. So glad to share whatever insights we've gleaned from that with the rest of the community to help your clients.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So you've basically been there and done that with Amazon for yourself and other people. And now, Emily, a little bit about yourself and Pearl Resourcing.
Yeah, so I have a branding and packaging design company. So we develop packaging design for retail commerce products or products being sold on Amazon, as well as just regular online Shopify pages. Just like Brice, I've built a brand from $0 to $1 million and sold it on Amazon. And you can't tell, but Brice and I are good buddies, and we love talking about how to make money online. So we're going to share with you our personal real life experience on how to take brands from $0 to $1 million. I had an exit, Brice had an exit. So we can kind of talk on every single part of the quadrant. So hit us with some hard hitting questions. We're here to help. And add us on LinkedIn. I added Brice and my LinkedIn profile, things right there. We're happy to be friends with all y'all. We're all in this to build businesses that make money.
Yeah, honestly, we've had dozens and dozens and dozens of questions submitted. So if your question does not get answered, just feel free to reach out to Brice and Emily after the event. This event will be shared with all registrants after, and then we'll also include contact info inside the email to get in touch with Brice and Emily. All right, so let's get started. So one of the first questions, we have had multiple people ask this question, is I'm a small business and I have 40% markup with my product. Between warehousing fees and quantities, they feel that it's not feasible for them to be selling on Amazon. So what are they missing?
Okay, so this for me, I hear several layers to this question. I hear a breakdown of the fees and how that works, and it's a struggle to get to a point of profitability on Amazon, especially for a small business. Let's just say it is very difficult. I think the underlying question, which we hopefully can get to, is how do I make a lot of money on Amazon, especially if my margins are low? Let me kind of take it in pieces here. So to understand the fees, number one, so I'm going to give you the highest level fees, and usually that means you're sending your product into Amazon to be fulfilled by Amazon. So they usually charge you somewhere between a nickel and a dime per pound of product that you send into Amazon for them to just process it and put it on the shelf. Then, if you don't have it already labeled correctly for Amazon to fulfill it, they're going to charge you 30% per selling unit for them to put the right label on it so they can fill it correctly. And then the storage, for as long as it sits on the shelf, they'll charge another almost 50 cents per square foot. That can vary throughout the year, especially during the fourth quarter, during the holiday shopping months or whatnot. But once all that's taken care of, then everybody gets charged pretty much the same amount, which is a 15% of the total sales price. So I almost don't want to look at this as a $15 item. Let's look at this as like a $15 times 1,000 items and kind of go through this scenario. The scenario is you ship 1,000 items into Amazon. Here's how they're going to charge you. Let's say hypothetically that these 15,000 items weighs 500 pounds. That cost is going to be $50 for them just to process it and put it on the shelf. And then the labeling, as I mentioned, if this is 1,000 items at 30 cents a unit, they're going to charge you $300 for that. And then the storage, to say hypothetically it's 18 square feet, it's kind of arbitrary, 3 foot by 3 foot pallet, maybe it's like 2 pallets or whatnot. They're going to charge you about $27 a month to store that. So let's just kind of, for easy math, let's say you're left after paying those fees, $14,500 worth of potential revenue to be had off of those 1,000 items. you're going to pay 15% to Amazon every time you sell a product. So the potential there is to pay Amazon $2,250 for that $15,000 worth of product. And then your margin, that 40%, is going to be somewhere around $5,600 gross. So after you subtract all of those fees, including the FBA fees plus Amazon seller fees, you're left with $2,380 net to your business, not including any kind of mark. So let's just say it's hard because in order to sell those products, you're probably going to have to do some amount of marketing and investment into getting people to your product. So that might be Amazon marketing. You might be doing some of your own email or off Amazon advertising. That's going to cost you something. So to your point, it's really tough to make a lot of money out of this unless you're looking at scale. And that's where a lot of brands really are looking at this. Where you're missing, I think, not necessarily missing, but the other benefits to a lot of brand and being on Amazon, even, we have clients that their goal is to break even. On those scenarios, a lot of times what they're trying to do is create a greater recognition for a bigger brand. So more other product variations that are available in other, retail outlets or on their website. So by being on Amazon, you're tapping into 300 million active shoppers that are online on Amazon, rather than people solely depending on going to your website through some social media ad and Google and email, and the 18 things that you have to do to get people to buy on your website can also be expensive. 60% of people who do a search for a product start their product search on Amazon, not on Google. So brands are on Amazon for that reason, is for that exposure or that branding to put the product in front of 300 million people. Then there's also the client acquisition piece and being able to put inserts into the box and see if you can do some sort of cross-selling either off of Amazon or even within Amazon, but avoiding some of the marketing fees and making your margin up somewhere else. So bottom line is, it's hard to have passive, part-time income off of Amazon because it is a lot of work, and doing, onesies and twosies here and there is not going to make you $1 million. The bigger brands really do have the edge here for a number of different reasons. But you really kind of have to be thinking about this in terms of scale in order to make it work for Amazon. And then I know Emily's got a lot of experience on this too. I'd like her to weigh in if you have anything to add to that.
For everybody who is, can you guys hear me? Yeah.
Thumbs up.
So for everybody who's listening, what everyone needs to understand is that Brice is a master of the technical. So he understands how to do ads and how to scale stuff up. And my area of expertise is in branding and packaging. So, and I also do a lot of public speaking. So I'm a little bit loud and obnoxious. So I hope you guys enjoy how much more energy. I'm just going to be too loud. So turn down your volume. But what I want to say about product building and making money is that there is a lot of white labeling happening on Amazon. And when you don't have margin, it's because you don't really have a brand. If you don't have a strong brand, if you are selling cookies, for example, and you're competing with everybody on price and there's no brand loyalty, the price just keeps getting torn down. But we can all think of brands where we are really happy to pay a lot of money to be able to get access to that product. So in addition to what Brice just said about, no matter who you are, if you're focusing on using Amazon as a sales tool and also getting high volume, you can also capture margin by building a brand that matters. People who are obsessed with your product will pay higher prices, even though there's other competitors out there. And I can think of, there's Jiu-Jitsu gi brands where they just charge whatever the heck that they want for their product, or vitamin brands that I've worked with who charge a lot of money, again, because of the brand loyalty. And that's one of the things that a lot of Amazon sellers who are just new getting into the game know is important, but it's not in the very beginning, you don't want to invest money into a brand. People get nervous or scared to do that. They don't understand necessarily the nuances of it because they're new to the physical product base. So the thing I want to just remind everyone of, if you've ever spent, $40 or $50 on a Nike t-shirt when you could have gotten a t-shirt from Target for $12, this is an example of how price is not correlated with cost. And most private label sellers on Amazon who are just starting out are thinking about pricing their products based on that kind of a thing, a commodity style competitive market. If you want to make more money, you have to actually build a brand. And that requires investing in brand identity, awesome packaging design, and innovative products that actually people can't, there's not a price comparison for. And so that's the second thing that I would add is it sounds like you're selling a wrong product. Maybe you shouldn't be selling a product that's only giving you 40% margin. If you really believe in it and like you're doing it for the love of the game and you're like, no, I really love this product, you can certainly build a brand around whatever it is that you're doing and find a way to build more margin, which is to do more volume. Your cost of goods are going to go down. The branding, invest a little bit of time, money in that, and you can charge more.
Yeah, and then that leads into the next question, which is we had a lot of merchants reach out who have their own e-commerce store right now, either on Shopify, BigCommerce, or a little bit smaller using Wix or Squarespace. And their question is, they have almost zero experience with Amazon, and they feel that Amazon is, pun intended, like a jungle that they have to navigate to get sales. So where do they start learning more about Amazon and how to effectively sell on Amazon?
Yeah, so a lot of different resources there, and I definitely understand that. I sort of tongue-in-cheek tell clients that being on Amazon is almost like owning a second website. I mean, it's like maintaining the products is entirely different. Yeah, there's these feeds that can take your Shopify or BigCommerce data and push it over to Amazon magically, where it just pops up. But I've got to tell you, I haven't seen one that not only formats it correctly, but optimizes it for Amazon, because optimizing for Amazon is different than optimizing it for your .com. So as far as learning, it is a process and it's an experimentation. So, I mean, there's a ton of great, YouTube videos. I think what I send my team through first is, a lot of people come through with some experience, but there's some really good videos and training material put out by vendors like eBridge, and we have our people attend a class from Helium 10, which provides some reporting and analytics about specific products that we use in some of our engagements. And then a lot of it, quite frankly, is socializing with our clients and being honest about what's kind of keeping things from holding up, and brainstorming with them to try something new and finding new breakthroughs just through conversation, real world conversation about the pain points that we're experiencing. And then being willing to experiment and throw stuff out there and see how the 300 million shoppers a month respond to this new stuff that we're doing. So there is some free material out there. There's some courses that you can pay for. You can hire coaches and consultants to help you along with it. But ultimately, you got to either get in there and start pushing some buttons, or you have to be willing to kind of turn it over to someone who's a subject matter expert and let them run with it, and still be a participant to weigh in on your knowledge about the product and your consumer. So, Emily, have you seen any other stuff out there that you felt like was a really good starting point for that?
No, I agree with everything you said. Obviously, people go to Google and YouTube and all these different places. But what I thought was so essential that you said is that it is its own business. So you might be able to spend a little bit of time and create a listing, but it is actually a business. You have to understand Amazon fees and optimize it. You have to understand the different types of ad spend to be able to maximize your cost per click. It's a business, and I've seen small businesses who have a lot of success on their own Shopify page, and they're selling maybe in stores, and then they get onto Amazon and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm not making any money, or oh my gosh, like I can't figure it out. I can't get them to pay me, and they're charging me too much for this. And it is a business. So if you're watching this and you're either in those, one of those two categories where you're the kind of person who wants to learn to do it yourself, and if that's the case, the internet is where you're going to do it, and learning from other experienced people. But it's going to be a painful process. And unless you're an analytical personality who really enjoys the detail, which I personally am not, and a lot of the owner operators out there in the world aren't, you should hire somebody to do it, because especially to get you set up and get you going and learn how to optimize everything, because it is a lot of work. But the best place I go to learn stuff, if I need a quick question and answer, I either go to the Amazon seller help desk, or I go to YouTube, or I call Brice.
Yeah, so then moving on, our next kind of bulk of questions was more about getting started with Amazon, actually sending products in and pricing. So one of the first questions was, do I need to send a big bulk of shipment to my nearest Amazon facility, or how does that process work? And then also determining kind of the right pricing for my products on Amazon.
Yeah, again, I hear layers of questions on that. Just getting started again, like it's all about sort of breaking the ice, and I'm going to tie this into what Emily was saying there about resources. There are a couple options there, so you can get in somebody like an intern, or you're do it yourself to get products in there for as long as that's intuitive. Someone like me who's a quick start Colby, if you know what that is, I don't have the sort of capacity to do that. I have people on my team that help me get data in there and press the buttons to make it live. Much more strategic and kind of high level. And I think that's a euphemism for like I don't have a very long attention span for stuff like that. But the point is, like, there are some affordable resources and some do-it-yourself sort of gusto you could use to get it going. At some point, whether it's early in the stage and getting frustrated with actually selling product after you've gotten it in there, or it's down the road where you start to sell product and some other operational issue comes up, or you're fighting to reinstate your account because you got shut down for something, where the real subject matter expertise comes into play. And you're really going to have somebody who knows the inner workings of Amazon. And that means you're either going to have to hire somebody that's not an inexpensive like intern. That's not a $15 an hour thing. Good intern, good Amazon subject matter experts can be in the six-figure range and up. Or you're going to like find somebody outside to help you who knows this that can hopefully give you some sort of like efficiencies and sort of the cost department. But to get going on a product, you don't necessarily have to ship the product into Amazon. I mean, everybody wants that free shipping. Yeah, it's kind of like almost overused. I find that a lot of times we've run some experiments where we'll run the same product at a higher price with free shipping and a lower price with added shipping. And sometimes we have a higher conversion rate and better profitability when we charge shipping. And so we all tend to overgeneralize and say, well, people are only going to buy it if it's free shipping. That's kind of true, but sometimes not. So you can fulfill it yourself. It's called fulfilled by merchant, and it may not necessarily be immediately eligible for Prime, but there's experiments you can run at different price points. A great thing about Amazon is with this type of scale, for as long as you're getting a lot of impressions on your product, you can change the price, change the images, change the description, include free shipping, don't include free shipping, and get some pretty responsive and get some significant data back to help shape what your decision is moving forward. Once you have some indication that your product is popular and people like it, then that's when you start talking about shipping product into Amazon to be fulfilled by Amazon and making it Prime eligible. And you'll see a pretty material size jump on the conversions when you do that, typically. So the pricing for me, I'd have to really know more about the product and like what Emily was talking about with like, is this a commodity item where we're fighting with 50 other sellers who are selling the same thing? Or is this something truly that is unique, but it's something that people are searching for? There's other products like it, but yours is a little bit different. That makes a big difference. I think we also overgeneralize about Amazon being a race to the bottom and it being tough to compete on price. I find, as Emily was describing, that many times you don't have to compete on price for as long as you could truly differentiate and create your own subcategory within your category and capitalize on a bigger demand. So it is not always a price war. Sometimes it's a price game or price experiment that you have to kind of throw out there and be willing to change it. So that's got its own sort of nuances and experimenting. So that's been my experience with FBA and pricing.
I agree with Brice. I've got nothing to add on it. He's right.
All right, fantastic. So our next bulk of questions kind of comes more on the marketing side on Amazon. So a popular topic that everyone still talks about today is earning the buy box on Amazon. So you guys can elaborate more on that.
Yeah, okay. So just so everybody's on the same page, I don't know the different levels of experience that people have coming into this webinar, the risk of insulting somebody's intelligence. I'll tell you, earning the buy box means that when somebody clicks that yellow add to cart button, if hypothetically 10 resellers are selling that same exact product, whoever has the buy box is the one who gets their product added to the cart when the user presses the yellow add to cart button. You don't have to win the buy box in order to sell your product. Some users, albeit a small percentage of the 300 million shoppers, will click to look at prices from other vendors, and sometimes will pick you. So you don't have to have the buy box in order to sell product. So the question is, how do you get the buy box? What a lot of brands don't realize is their first time on Amazon, you don't immediately get the buy box just because you're the only product being sold, or because you're the only one selling that particular product. You have to earn your own buy box when you're the only seller for your product. And so the first step on something like that is a lot of times it helps to drive in your own traffic from friends and family, or if you have an email list from people who have bought from you before. That will help sort of send the right signals into Amazon to say that you're a legitimate seller, you have a good product, people want to buy it. And Amazon's pretty responsive to give you the buy box, let you win the buy box for your own product. And it's a separate scenario where there's a lot of vendors selling the same thing. Who gets the buy box? And it's I think the perception of most sellers is you have to have the lowest price. And while that is an important factor, many times a more important factor can be your shipping history and your customer satisfaction history. Layer in like your brand. If you own the brand, if it's your brand, and you have done brand registry and declared that that is your product, you're probably going to get some more preferential treatment, even if you don't have the absolute lowest price. Doesn't mean you're absolutely going to get the buy box, but it doesn't mean that you have to have the lowest price either. So usually the brands who are brand registered have really good A+ content, really good photos and really good feature bullets. All those things have a really good shipping history. Even if they don't have the lowest price, we'll find that they can win their own buy box. So the unfortunate thing with Amazon, Amazon wants some predictability and how much money they're going to make off of every transaction. So if you have some history that suggests to Amazon that you can't keep things in stock, or you can't keep customers happy, or people aren't satisfied with the product, you're probably going to lose the buy box. And sometimes, in some cases, it's almost like starting over from scratch, and it's really a painful process. But to boil it down, the buy box is a complicated algorithm. It's not as complicated as, say, like maybe SEO on Google, which is like a whole topic for another session. But there is some complicated algorithms, but the basics are, you do want to compete on price. That's not the bottom line. You want to provide a really good experience for the user to make it a no-brainer for them to buy from you. If you can touch all the touch points on that to convince people to do that and stay on top of it, you'll probably get the buy box, and it'll be hard to lose it.
All right, and then the next question about more on the marketing side was the best practices on driving customers back to your Amazon products so they leave positive reviews on their purchases.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just realized, Emily, if you want to come back to the last question based on packaging, maybe we can circle back on that here in a minute. I'd say, like, as far as driving, you said, so the question, Eric, was like, how do you drive people to positive reviews? Is that the question? Yeah. So
purchase and they want to come back so they can leave a positive review on the product so your ratings boost.
So you want to be really careful about this. So Amazon's going to help you because they're going to send out emails frequently on your behalf and make it easy when you're logging into your account, looking at your account history, your order history. They're going to put buttons in front of them to try to encourage them to leave reviews. So you've got Amazon on your side here. Now, there is a way through the Seller Central interface to go in after an order and press a button to request a product review. There's also early seller programs like Vine and early review. The names escape me. I'm sure Emily's thinking of it right now, but there's a couple review programs where Amazon will help fuel an early seller or an early stage product and get reviews in sooner than later. They've developed these programs to help people to mitigate some of these fake reviews and companies going out and hiring other outside resources to help build fake reviews. So one sort of thing would be, don't get fake reviews. It will catch up with you. It might seem really tempting and you might get 1,000 reviews in a month. It will catch up with you and you will pay the price at some point. So you can press the button on Amazon to request a review. Beyond that, there's some stuff you can do with package inserts, and this is Emily's real specialization is packaging and some of this like opening the box experience. But that you also have to be really cautious with how explicit you're being with asking for a positive review. So Emily, I'll kind of turn it over to you. I feel like this is more your subject matter expertise.
Yeah, I would love to see if anyone could type into the chat whether or not you own your own brand. So like if you are, I'm assuming people on here own their own brand and can therefore decide what their packaging looks like. So if you are watching, I'd love to see if you could type that in if you own your own brand. If you're reselling a different brand, I'd like to know that as well. So what I would say is that the packaging is the place where you can, that's the area at least that I have expertise, is that's an area where you can really start talking about getting reviews. Because on your packaging, if you are an online-based company, you should be having a QR code that sends people to a special custom web page on your site that is exclusive for people who bought your products on Amazon, and talk about who you are, how to use your product, put a little bit of fun into it. And again, I've sold lots of products on Amazon. We built packaging for people who are upgrading because they're selling so well and now they want to get to the next level. And truly having that customer experience where people feel that they're getting something special because they bought your product, that is how you're going to get them to want to leave a review. So that's the first thing that I can think of is use your packaging. The second thing is, again, you're supposed to be building a relationship with these people. If you actually want to make money on your Amazon products and not just be a white labeler, then you need to highlight the people who have left comments. I worked with a podcaster who was a friend. We built some products for him. And what we did on their social media is we took the Amazon reviews and we had him read them on his podcast. And so the funnier they were, the more they got to be featured on this top 10 business podcast. And then they posted them on social media and they took the videos and they reposted those on social media and they made it fun and they left comments on every funny, cool review. They were leaving, comments. They added funny questions and we developed a whole brand concept around it. It's the Jocko podcast, if you've ever listened to it. And the joke was like, this tea will give you an 8,000-pound deadlift, which we all know is not possible. But there was a bunch of guys who wrote funny stories about how it helped them grow hair on their chest. And if you have a personality with your brand, your customers are going to engage and be excited to leave reviews. If you don't invest in having a personality and in building a relationship with your customers, they're not going to want to leave a review because they're all about price comparison. So I would say packaging artwork, doing something really unique for your Amazon customers, and building a brand, building a personality.
Yeah, I'm actually quite familiar with that podcast myself. I'm a frequent listener of that one, so that really fits into that kind of branding and that kind of perception too. It's all in the marketing and the packaging and how you present it to the customer. So then we're kind of diving more into like the niche categories inside Amazon. So people are looking for a lot of help with selling food items on Amazon.
Yeah, I'm also going to start with Emily on this one. This is her forte. We do a lot of CPG brands, but just by the way, she sort of undersold herself because she is the founder and creator of that Jocko brand. And so if you like the podcast and you like the product, then that's Emily's baby. So Emily, I'm going to let you start with the CPG and food stuff, and then I'll kind of add in where appropriate.
Yeah, okay. So again, if anyone's watching and has a food brand, I would like to know, what is the name of your food brand? Why don't you post it in the chat? Because I would love to know about it. I have worked in food products. The majority of my work has been in food, probably 75%. And I have sold products into retailers like Kroger and Target. And I've also sold products on Amazon. And so there's two ways to sell Amazon products for food. And the first way is just to do it through Amazon, like Seller Central, like a normal product. And the issue with it is that you have to keep in mind inventory management with that type of a product if you're going to be doing fulfilled by Amazon, because things expire and they have to be labeled in a certain way that they are going to not expire. You also have to think about seasonality when it comes to shipping. So I've got a ton of clients who sell chocolate and they can't sell it during the summer seasons. And Sarah Smith, thank you so much for posting. Caramel can bloom when it's been hot. So, and therefore it can also melt through your packaging. And so the customer experience can be absolutely terrible. So being really aware and sensitive of seasonality when it comes to your products, and tell people on your listing that it's a seasonal product. We only sell it on Amazon during these seasons. And I know that that's difficult. Brice knows it better than I do about how, if you're not selling during certain seasons, that hurts your visibility, but everyone in your category is going to have the same problem. So just really be aware and sensitive of that. For the other way you can sell products on Amazon that are food related is actually getting into retailers, because they have that Amazon grocery program. And so if you can get into local retailers, they actually have a program where you can sell through that and put into their grocery cart, and it can be delivered locally from a local grocery store. So if you are, for example, selling chocolate or caramel or something that expires, that is a thing that you can do. And then you can even sell it just regionally in your region. If you're only in that region, let's say you're only in Maine, the state of Maine, you can turn on or off Amazon to just sell in those locations. And again, I don't know how to do it, but Brice does. So, and I'm sure there's other people out there in the world who can teach you how to do that. But those are the things to keep in mind with food.
The one thing I'll add, this does get sort of complicated. You almost do a whole, a whole session, if not a whole week-long workshop on selling food items. The other thing, you got to keep in mind, along with chocolate, not only if you've solved the problem on how to ship chocolate in Texas in the month of August, good for you, but Amazon's not going to allow it no matter what. So there's certain categorical restrictions that you're up against. It's just there's no way to get around it. There's also the element of being having a shelf stable product. So we've had conversations with products like ice cream. That's not going to sit on a shelf and stay good. Nor is most kombuchas. There's a short shelf life on certain products that'll spoil or whatnot. So that makes it really difficult. We do have a couple clients or partners that sell, say, fresh pressed juices, which has an extremely short shelf life. And the way they have gone about it is they have a very niche 3PL they have found who has figured out how to keep it refrigerated. And they know they invested a lot. Let's just say they invested a lot in the first, year or so to figure out what the volume was on this thing through Amazon compared to their website. They invested in their brand to figure the math out, to figure out how much supply they had to have on hand and what the cost structure needed to be for them to make money on it. They found this specialized 3PL that could ship the product on their behalf and ship it quickly and keep refrigerated. So all their product is fulfilled by merchant through a 3PL, not fulfilled by Amazon. And it's okay. And what has happened is they have done such a good job that this is fairly rare. I don't see this a lot, but they have earned the Prime distinction. So it's eligible for free shipping, and it's eligible for that Prime filter, which was the #1 e-commerce filter used on the planet. They are eligible for Prime by fulfilling it themselves. Again, I've seen that a handful of times. It is on an invite-only basis, and you really have to have some good statistics behind you to indicate to Amazon that you're a dependable fulfillment shop. But that would be the other thing, is shelf stable. You're gonna have to figure it out yourself and wait to earn the Prime distinction if you go that route. So.
I want to piggyback on what he just said. I love that he brought up the shelf stability, and oh my gosh, how cool is it that someone was able to do Amazon Prime fulfilling by themselves? That is really an awesome accomplishment. The thing I saw, Jason, thank you so much for mentioning that you do infusion soy sauces. The other thing that I remembered is with food packaging, a different type of structural packaging than you would do if you were selling at a farmer's market or direct to consumer. That is so key, because your bottle can break. Just imagine getting a bottle of soy sauce has been burst all over your your iPad that you also purchased. So developing custom packaging is really key. On my website, so emilyannpage.com/start-to-sold, I have an article on how to develop packaging for online commerce brands. And I give some examples of how to reduce breakage with packaging. And so I'm going to send this in the chat, but that's something else to think about with food products, is that you're going to need custom packaging specific for Amazon, because it's a chaotic environment when they're throwing products into boxes. It's getting shoved around, and if your packaging causes your product to spoil, bend, like caramel, I can imagine. I had one client who did caramel in rolls, and it got all bent out of shape because it was tossed about inside the box. So packaging is, I think, important with food to make sure it doesn't break and have a great customer experience.
Yeah, and I can relate to buying food online. I frequently purchase meal subscription boxes online where you get to cook at home. And one company even figured out how to safely ship eggs to people, like one little egg in a little container so it doesn't smash. So if they can do it, you can do it with your products. And now we're kind of moving on to bigger growth on Amazon. So we have a couple of questions about expanding market reach. So one question is about getting out of being in a restricted or a gated category and moving into an unrestricted category and how people achieve that.
Man, that's one of those I feel like I need a little bit more background on. So there's like the difference in like brand gating, which is like what you see with brands like Nike and some Lux brands. So Lux is like a whole separate category within Amazon for like luxury and beauty items. And that tends to help protect your brand. So when I hear gating, that's the first thing that comes to mind. I think what we're talking about really is more like restrictions. There's certain categories like, safety products, baby products, car products, health, and like supplements can be somewhat restrictive. CBD is just like off limits. Food can be, somewhat restricted. So that is a process. So there's a process to apply to get into the category and to have your product approved. And then like inevitably it seems like no matter how well you do what you do, at some point, there's people around the planet somewhere that are following rules and they're looking for reasons to shut certain products down or certain sellers down. So they're following a rule book and for whatever reason they're paid to enforce these rules. So they're looking for something to like shut you down on. So then either your product's been shut down or your account needs to be reinstated, and you're sort of fighting to get back on or reinstated. So the simple version is to file a reinstatement appeal and try to get back in. And what's funny about that is, again, these Amazonians in different parts of the planet can interpret your application compared to the rules in different ways. So as much as it seems like Amazon's one big company, they should all interpret your stuff the same way and, use common sense. You think they use some common sense, but a lot of times they don't. And one guy will turn you down, you'll reappeal, and the next guy will shut you down, and you appeal it again, and somebody will get you reinstated. So first thing first, keep your nose to the grindstone and fight it. If you get denied, reappeal it and see what happens. And then, also a phone call, if you know how to make the right phone call, or this is where it helps to have like somebody in your, back pocket who really knows the insides of Amazon, whether you're hiring you have somebody at eBridge that can help you, or if you're working with a consultant, you have somebody on staff who's an ex-Amazonian that has an inside connection. Those inside connections are like, it's hard to get people to use them because that's a card you don't want to play all the time if you can kind of just follow the rules. But it can be helpful to kind of know the inside process of Amazon and kind of work it. There are certain categories where Amazon doesn't take applications for new products, but a phone call can help like raise the flag and get your product an exemption and get you in. So sometimes just calling and making some noise will get somebody's attention, and somebody behind the scenes can press a button to get your product live. So I feel like this is another, maybe I'm making it overcomplicated. There's so many different scenarios when I think of restrictions and limitations on Amazon and getting shut down because of violations and all that kind of stuff. There's so many ways to approach it depending on your specific product and what it was that triggered the restriction or gate. So Emily, you have more, you dealt with a full food and beverage product. What have been your experience with that?
I think you nailed it on like answering it. I would just, like you said, if anyone is watching this and they have constricted category, can you type in the category? Because I don't have as much experience with this type of thing. The only type that I've ever seen is like people who are maybe selling something like a coffee or tea alternative that the Amazon considers like a hallucinogen, and I didn't ever see them get back on Amazon. And I've seen other people who wanted to sell like weed related products and they got kicked off and could never get back on. I've never seen anyone overcome it. So if you have your category, boys.
Yeah, we'll say we have a client that does pesticides, but it's made of all organic material, like it's made out of cedar and sort of oils from certain plants and stuff like that. So it seems like they're always being scrutinized because number one, the consumer's frame of reference is pesticide. So to some degree, the category they're in is like this pesticide or pest control, and that's laden with like full of keywords that will just get them shut down. So if you play that card to get the amount of consumers looking for a pesticide, then it's going to get you shut down. And then because they're saying that they're an organic product, like that's another like red flag with Amazon. You got to provide the appropriate paperwork to prove your claims. And just because you proved it today doesn't mean that in like 90 days somebody else is going to come along and say, I want to see the paperwork again. I want to see your renewal docs or whatever. And oh, by the way, you're suspended until you provide this again for the 8th time. So that happens all the time as well.
I don't personally know, Chris. So what I would do is maybe email us later because you probably don't, I don't know if you don't want to share with us what the issue is. I would imagine it's choking issues, but I don't know how to solve that problem. So I would email Brice a little bit later, more details.
Yeah, all right, fantastic. Yeah, their contact information will be shared after this event, including the video. So moving on, we have another question from someone who's currently located in Canada and they're looking to expand into the American market with Amazon. So what would be the best practices in ensuring that the fulfillment process and getting the product to the customer is effective and efficient?
Yeah, so another one where it'll help to know more about the story. So number one, so the upside of solving this problem, if I'm assuming that maybe there's already been some realization about what the opportunity here is and why the question's even being asked in the first place. But as a general rule of thumb, the marketplace opportunity in the US is about 10x what it is in Canada. So we see this a lot of times going the other direction too. We have a successful product in the US doing $1 million a month. We take it to Canada and get it up to $100,000 a month. And that's it's not a cap necessarily. I don't look at it that way because I'm overly opportunistic and optimistic. I'm an eternal optimist. I guess that's what I'm looking for. But as a general rule of thumb, that's about the ratio of the marketplace opportunity. So if you're going from Canada to US, you're looking for a 10x is the potential here. It's not going to be big bang, but that's the opportunity. So a lot of times just by being on the US marketplace, and especially if you are shipping product into FBA to be fulfilled by Amazon, the great thing is they'll take care of all of that for you. We have a Canadian brand that is a cold pressed juice that has to be fulfilled by merchant. So that's actually the example that I was using a while ago, where they have a 3PL that they work with in Ohio. So they've worked out the complications in getting it over the border and into Ohio. And from that point, it's easy just to manage the products. It's very similar to managing the product in Canada. So the scale from that point, the hard part's like figuring out how to get it over the border. And then you should be good to go for as long as either you're doing FBA or you have a trusted partner you're working with as a 3PL to fulfill it from the US.
Yeah, and you can get a broker who can help you with getting it across the border. That's the key, is getting a person who's experienced helping products to come across the border. You obviously need to have the right tariff codes, and you need to have the right paperwork, and you need to have someone prepared to sign off on that stuff. So you need to find a broker who's an expert in bringing products from Canada to the US or vice versa. That will make a world of difference for you. The thing that other people don't remember as well is that packaging needs to change. If you're going to be selling products in Canada, you need to have the French language on it. There's different weights and descriptions on the nutritional panel. So if you're trying to sell across countries, you plan to pay for new labels that you're slapping onto your packaging. And so that's an additional fee, or a 100% new production run from scratch, where you're going to be including things that will meet the legal requirements of the state, the country that you're going to be selling your products in.
Yeah, it's a good point about the nutritional labels. I forget how many Canadian calories are in a US calorie and all that stuff, but you got to update the labels accordingly. Just kidding.
No, it's true. It's true.
Yeah, well, I'm in Canada, so I can speak to that. We have to have everything in French and English translated properly and all that. I used to work for, before eBridge, I used to work for a food company, and we always had to make sure that the translation was spot on, or else we could get into serious trouble by mislabeling an ingredient or something. So it's a tedious process, but usually if you hire a translator to do it, they can do it for you. So there's plenty of services like that. And then the next question about growth on Amazon is best way to kind of grow my Amazon brand or my brand on Amazon, or in the long-term goal is to either get investment from VCs or sell it to a bigger conglomerate.
Can I take this topic, branding and packaging, or start it off anyway? So what's interesting is that, again, so I've said this from the beginning, because I've been doing Amazon stuff since when Amazon started. I started watching and developing products, and branding is the most important way, I believe, that you need to build your portfolio to be able to sell. And I've helped some clients even develop their company to take on venture capital money. And some of the things that people forget about when it comes to building a brand, because usually when we're startups, we're going the cheapest route, we're hiring someone, randomly, we're personally picking the logo, we're letting our personal preferences decide how we're going to develop the product, packaging, artwork, is that over time, you actually want to professionalize those things if you're actually going to take on money. So you want to create a brand identity guide, for example, a PDF that basically describes to anybody in the entire world what your visual identity cues are, your key fonts, logos, colors, all that stuff. That is a visual representation of what your brand is all about. And that is very important if you're going to go and pitch to somebody, to show that you have a professionalized visual plan to explain who you are as a brand. And that also then translates into having more professionalized packaging so that it's all brand consistent, a website that's brand consistent. The more consistent you are with your brand, the more people perceive this to be an asset rather than something that's tied to you as a person. You can't sell a company that you are the only one making all the decisions and everything's been formulated around your personal preferences. Your company needs to have its own identity, and that's why you want to define the visual elements of your company really clearly. Another thing that's important is you want to be able to articulate, your cost of goods and have a professional process for explaining how much you're making on all of your products. So do you have a good QuickBooks set up? Do you have Excel spreadsheets that help explain to anyone inspecting your books the profit margins that they can expect? And so the finances, getting really clear and being able to have great reporting is important, so that you can articulate your value, like your EBITDA, the amount of money that you're going to be able to the multiplier of your total profit is how people are going to determine the valuation of that company. You want to be able to have a way that they can figure that out when they're looking at your books. And another thing that I've noticed is you need to have a portfolio of products. So people will either buy your company because they want the profit that they're going to get off of it, or they're going to want your client base. And so if you have a diverse client base where you're selling, let's say, to moms, you're selling to women who are millennial moms, and you're selling them mom products, and then you're also selling them baby products, you're going to have a better chance of selling that company because you have a portfolio which has access and far reach to a large number of people. So you want to be able to build that audience. You want to be able to tell a story about how you interact with them regularly, so that you actually have a community. And that is valuable in addition to just the profit margin, the actual community and people who are following your products. And that involves developing a portfolio. And the very last thing is processes. So it's so easy when we are small entrepreneurs and we're building our own company, we're owner operators. We're the janitor, we're the person who's replying to emails, we're the person who's deciding how many products to order. You need to write out a process for running your business to be able to sell it. And someone will want to know, hey, this is a turnkey thing. If if Eric is the person who built the business, if Eric leaves, how am I going to run it? Am I going to be able to keep the money? Like when Eric disappears, will the profit also disappear because he's the only guy who actually knows how to run this business? So you want to be sure that you have written down processes that are professionalized. And I mean, Brice and I both sold businesses that we built on Amazon, and you got to build it so that the buyer feels it's an asset apart from you. And that is when they're going to be willing to pay for it.
Yeah. I'll tie this back into the profit thing too, kind of back to, some businesses aren't, as counterintuitive as it seems to some of us on this call, their goal isn't to make a profit. Their goal is to acquire new customers. and to increase the velocity. Because number one, if you go in to sell at like a club like Sam's or Costco, the first thing they're gonna ask is, let me see your Amazon sales. They almost like don't even care about anything else. Like that is the number one criteria for getting into a club like Sam's or Costco is your Amazon sales. So that is the proof in the pudding to them. The next thing is the valuation on these businesses, as Emily was describing. This is where we're talking about like real scale, right? So, we've worked with a brand that that was doing hundreds of millions of dollars and was keeping none of what they were doing on Amazon in the bank. In fact, they were operating at a loss on Amazon. But Coca-Cola came in and bought this brand for billions, not because it made financial sense in of itself, but because Coca-Cola has distribution. They can take this product that is proven to generate this fanatic fan base and give it distribution, put it into hundreds of thousands of grocers and pharmacies and clubs and everything else. Every place that a Coca-Cola is sold, this product can also be sold in the same place. So orders of magnitude, Coca-Cola is looking at this as a fanatic fan base, and they can amplify the distribution. And because of the operational efficiencies of Coca-Cola, they can cut a large amount of the cost out of the underlying costs to create the profit that Coca-Cola needs to make this successful. So it's not always profit that these buyers are looking for and buying your brand.
Yeah, that's a lot of great insights on that, because a lot of people are looking to grow their business and maintain it themselves, but some are looking for an exit strategy. So deciding what you want to do with your product and brand is essential for its success. So as we start to wind down our AMA, just some final thoughts on the pros of selling on Amazon, and would you recommend, just doing it yourself or consulting with an expert or experts such as yourself to get products live and going on Amazon?
So as far as help, I kind of threw out some scenarios there before. It's not hard to find somebody to help experiment and kind of push the buttons and see what can happen. If it's like passive and it's a passion, it's just an experiment, you're trying to learn, you're trying to make, some income on the side, you're probably gonna have to do it yourself or find somebody like an unpaid intern who can try to tinker with it and figure it out. If this is something serious or you're an existing brand, you're either gonna have to hire somebody or outsource it to an agency or some sort of consultancy. And this is where I think, you can still hire somebody in-house that single thread through this one person or a group of people that ends up being really expensive to have this in-house resource. The advantage of hiring somebody outside would be to, number one, a lot of times it's a lot more cost efficient. They might not be putting as much time into the account, but you're getting some subject matter expertise and are drawing on experiences with other brands like yours. And sometimes more importantly, some brands that are unlike yours to help infuse some really good ideas into what you're doing. So yes, it could be a cost and you might not be profitable day one, but it might accelerate your results to get you to the end game a lot faster. You can tinker with this for the next 5 or 10 years yourself and the opportunity could pass you by. Or you could outsource it or work with someone, a consultant or an agency to help you accelerate that a lot faster and get to the end game a lot faster. And then, Eric, I feel like there's a part of the question I missed. Will you repeat how you asked the question?
Yeah, so it was just about the pros of selling on Amazon.
Yeah. So the pros again. Yeah. So the pros, I go back to, scale. It is, I think a lot of brands look at the 15% that Amazon takes plus some marketing investment and all that. Yeah, that's expensive. Amazon takes a lot. But a lot of brands, those same people who say that aren't looking at the cost to acquire customers on their e-commerce site through Google and Facebook. It is a grind. So a lot of times it's a dollar or two a click, and then people are converting at a miserable average conversion rate of 1%, meaning 1 out of every 100 people that come to the website will actually purchase. Even if you're kicking ass on your conversions and you've got a 4 or 6%, but you're having to spend $100 to get 6 conversions, fiscally, it doesn't make as much sense as going to Amazon. Amazon has a scale to have 300 million active shoppers online every month, 60% of all products searches that happen on the internet happen on Amazon, not on Google. And we have found by doing well on Amazon, it can positively affect, a lot of brands are worried about what happens to their D2C sales or direct-to-consumer sales through their website. We find that the website sales actually increase to the tune of 5 to 20% when they are successful on Amazon. It's really hard to make that direct line correlation in many cases, unless you're doing some of the package insert stuff and cross-promoting, like Emily was talking about. And then just overall client acquisition, like getting the brand in front of new buyers, and that initial marketing investment, turning that into subscribe and save features and stuff like that to help create the profit and create the recurring purchases can be a much easier in some cases on Amazon than doing it yourself. Ultimately, when you go to sell your business, Amazon is going to be treated as part of the ecosystem. There's a lot of these cliches like omni-channel marketing and things like that. So this is, in my opinion, this is essential to protect your brand. If you're not on Amazon, you've created a product and you're not on Amazon, at some point when you become popular, one of your retailers or your 3PL or some knockoff is going to show up on Amazon with your product at a tenth of the price that you want to sell it for, taking over your product. And then you're going to be backpedaling, trying to take over those listings and control your brand so these guys aren't trying to sell expired products or counterfeit products. So the work involved in shutting those counterfeits down is best done by taking it head on before they even get there. So that's a handful, in my opinion, of the top advantages. And for me, it's an essential part of the mix. But that's how I feel about it.
I mean, the only thing I would add is that I felt like I learned a lot getting products set up on Amazon. Like just the process of taking a product and being the person who put it on was a very educational process, because when it came to hiring someone else to do it, I was so annoyed that it cost money. I was like, this isn't hard. What's wrong with you? Because I can build websites. I can do a bazillion things with my free time. And the process of putting stuff online and then getting onto Amazon Seller Central help desk and waiting for hours, talking to every single person in the entire world, none of whom have any power or ability to help you. And even having it was such a nightmare that it was really helpful for me to know what things were worth outsourcing and what things were not. Because you probably, if you're watching this, I'm assuming that you enjoy managing your own, some element of your Amazon business. And there's parts of it that you probably don't mind managing. Putting a listing up, maybe you feel like creating the initial listing is easy to do. And that's probably the easiest part of Amazon. But there's other pieces of it that you find you hit a wall. And ad spend is one of the ones I hated doing. I don't do the data analytics. I like to say that I've got a good personality. I'm not necessarily smart in the statistics category, okay? So that is a category that I learned the hard way through doing what it was worth to me to outsource. And the same with optimization of a listing. When I hired someone to optimize a listing, it instantly, I was hesitant because I thought, oh, I'm so good at this. And when I saw instant results, I was like, oh, okay, so this was definitely worth paying for. So I think it's good to start it out yourself. I think you will learn what things is worth paying someone for. And if you're amazing at doing something, you don't need to hire someone for it. So anyway, I look forward to meeting everyone on LinkedIn. Be sure to add Brice and myself, and it's a pleasure meeting all of you.
Yeah, and I know there were a whole plethora of questions that we didn't get to today, so it's easy to contact Brice and Emily. Brice at reapcommerce.com and Emily at pearlresourcing.com. Super simple emails. The business is in the name, first name, and that's all that you guys have to do. So as we wind down, thanks for joining us. Hopefully your question did get answered live on air. This will be going out as an email later next week, and it'll also be hosted as a blog post on eBridgeConnections.com. Thanks for joining us, and hope you enjoy the rest of your day.